Starting off our list day in the number 10 spot, we have Jimmy Kimmel. After numerous clips of Jimmy Kimmel wearing a blackface on his 90s talk show, The Man Show resurfaced and went viral. The late night host apologized for his embarrassing portrayals of black celebrities, including NBA star Karl Malone. Jimmy would then release a statement in June 2020, and in it he would say, "I have long been reluctant to address this, as I knew doing so would be celebrated as a victory by those who equate apologies with weakness and cheer for leaders who use prejudice to divide us. The delay was a mistake." Jimmy then regretted his past decisions and went on to further his apology by saying, "There is nothing more important to me than your respect, and I apologize to those who are genuinely hurt or offended by the makeup I wore or the words I spoke." And while the apology was definitely a step forward for the star, it makes us all hope in the future he will use his voice and platform to spread love and not hate. Number 9. Wendy Williams. When Wendy Williams dedicated a July 2021 segment to a 19-year-old TikTok star who passed away, instead of paying tribute to the teen, she took a different approach, and it almost seemed like she was turning the TikTok star's passing into a joke. In the segment, she even went on to say, "I have no idea who this is. Neither does one person in the building." If things couldn't get any more worse, she then also turned to the crowd to note, "He's got more followers than me, 2.5 million, before bragging that she had more Instagram followers than him. His mother, Chanel Clark, who was actually watching the show at the time but then later turned to Philadelphia's CBS3 to share with the media outlet that she didn't appreciate Wendy's commentary when she said, "Like, as a mother, Wendy Williams, how dare you?" She then went on to note that she found the whole episode just to be rather disrespectful in general. Hey everyone, I really hope you're enjoying this video so far. If so, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never have to miss out on what I might just cover next. And trust me, you don't want to miss out on the next video because it has some serious tea in it. Number 8. Ellen DeGeneres. When the Ellen DeGeneres show was under investigation in the summer of 2020, the world would come to learn that not just one former staff member but multiple former staff members accused Ellen of creating a toxic workplace environment. Trying to cover up all of the commotion surrounding all of the rumors that were being leaked, Ellen would then later send her team a lengthy memo where she would apologize to her former staff members for making them feel uncomfortable, and she even went on to promise that going forward, things were going to change so that everybody could feel safe while working in the studio. While many of her celebrity friends, including Katy Perry and Kevin Hart, came out to defend the star, others like Brad Garrett and Leah Thompson claimed they had heard about the negative experiences. Warner Media would then be forced to launch an investigation into the show in July of 2020, shortly before filming resumed. And after the investigation was completed, they decided it would be best to end Ellen's show. And it was truly sad, as there were so many moments on the show that made us all smile and hope for the best. Number 7. Jimmy Fallon. Back in 2016, Jimmy Fallon decided he was going to sit down for an interview with the then presidential candidate Donald Trump. And with the interview failing miserably, the Tonight Show host would find himself being heavily criticized. Many viewers then started to blame the talk show host for everything from normalizing Trump enough to get him elected, or even having Trump's ratings decline. But in another reflection on the moment, even Jimmy has now admitted that he did screw up. In an interview for Awards Chatter, which is a podcast made by The Hollywood Reporter, Fallon expressed his regret about ruffling Trump's hair on the show when he said, "I'm sorry, I don't want to make anyone angry. I never do and I never will. It's all in the fun of the show. I made a mistake. I'm sorry if I made anyone mad. And looking back, I wouldn't do it again." But I mean, the way he rubbed Donald's hair really made him look like this cute little golden retriever puppy, and Donald was really enjoying the process. Number 6. Joy and Meghan McCain. When it comes to the View host, we all know they're known for butting their heads over difficult political views. However, when Joy decided to make an offhand remark about not missing Meghan McCain while she was on maternity leave, it would cause the Arizona native to leave the show behind for good after being on the show for 4 years. During a heated exchange on an episode in January 2021, Meghan would tease Joy for her remarks by saying, "You miss me so much, when I was on maternity leave. Joy then quickly responded to Megan's statement by saying, I did not miss you. 0. Later, Megan would then sit down for an interview with Variety before her August 2021 exit, and she would explain to the media outlet that the public squabble actually led for her to have a panic attack after filming Rap, when she said, I couldn't stop crying and I'm not always crying. I couldn't expose myself, so I threw up in a garbage can. Before adding, Joy never even apologized for making the rude comments. Number 5. Jon Stewart and Tucker Carlson. During a 2014 appearance on Tucker Carlson's former CNN show Crossfire, the former Daily Show host Jon Stewart accused Tucker and his co-host of partisan hackery and hurting America. The interview then sparked a lot of outrage, and Jon even addressed the heated exchange just days after the Crossfire episode aired on his own Comedy Central show, when he came out to say, apparently, when you invite someone on the show called Crossfire, you express an opinion. They don't care for that. The political debate show was then cancelled 1 year later, and Paul even went on to accuse Jon's appearance of being the final nail in the show's coffin. In March of 2021, Jon then reignited his feud with the Fox News correspondent when he made a tweet saying, it's high time I apologize. I never should have lumped you in with that terrible person. Number 4. Alec Baldwin. At one point in time, Alec Baldwin had his own talk show. Well, that was until he made one pretty questionable move. Alec's MSNBC show would then end up being cancelled in November 2013 after the famously outspoken 30 Rock actor started to make headlines after he offended the LGBTQ+ community with a slur while he was in New York City. Feeling ashamed for everything he said after taking the time to reflect and learn about the hurt he caused, he would then come forward with an apology, and with his apology, he would say, words are important. I understand that, and I will choose mine with great care going forward. What I said and did this week, as I was trying to protect my family, was offensive and unacceptable. Number 3. Whoopi Goldberg. So we all know Whoopi Goldberg's show has always been pretty controversial, but I think we were all shocked after she made some pretty concerning comments about history, because the star made some hurtful anti-Semitic remarks and directed them towards the Jewish community. Kim Godwin, the president at ABC, would then come forward in a statement and say, effective immediately, I am suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks for her wrong and hurtful comment. While Whoopi has apologized, I've asked her to take the time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comment. The entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity with our Jewish colleagues, friends, family, and communities. Hours after the incident, the Oscar winner also apologized for her remarks during an appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and she would say it upset a lot of people, which was never ever my intention. She then later headed to her Twitter to also issue another formal apology. Number 2. Sharon Osbourne. The talk show host Sharon Osbourne once made headlines back in November 2013 when she slammed all the ladies on the show after she made an appearance on the Arsenio Hall show. Even though the star tried to claim that she was actually a really big fan of Barbara Walters and that she even idolizes her for the rest of the hosts on The View, she went on to throw some major shade at them when she pretty much said they could all go F themselves. After being criticized by fans, Sharon would then come out to apologize for her remarks, and she would tell all her fans she didn't want to come off as mean as she was, and that she was only trying to be funny. Then she went on to note that she actually had a lot of respect for all women, and that she wasn't really responsible for anything she says, as she's just a loose cannon. But I mean, sometimes funny is just not funny. Number 1. Megyn Kelly. So back in October of 2018, Megyn Kelly would come under fire after her name started to hit the headlines, after the star tried to defend why she was wearing blackface makeup while she was celebrating Halloween. Instead of issuing an apology, Megyn would head to her morning show to talk about the incident, and during the episode she would say, when I was a kid, it was okay, just as long as you were dressing as a character. Megyn would then be forced to apologize in an email to her staff members, and later she even read a similar statement on air to apologize to all of the viewers on her show and her fans and to the United States. In the the end, US would actually end up confirming 2 days later on that NBC actually cancelled the Megyn Kelly Today in the wake of all the controversy.
At number 10, we have Tom Cruise's bizarre 2005 Today Show interview where Matt Lauer asked the actor about his Brooke Shields' use of antidepressants comment. Everyone's favorite Scientology poster boy completely flipped out by calling Matt glib and stating he didn't understand psychiatry as Tom does and only communicates it. Therefore, Matt shouldn't be speaking on things he doesn't understand. The Church of Scientology has been notoriously known to be opposed to psychiatry, by the way. However, Tom's press tour incident also came with Matt questioning if his KDPDA scene was a publicity stunt, and the damage to Tom's reputation from that point was enough to have him in a single movie per year, until he reemerged on the public's good side with his 2008 role in Tropic Thunder. At that point, he was no longer publicly speaking about Scientology though. Matt has since admitted to Howard Stern that a publicist of Tom's had rung him prior to a segment airing with attempts to remove that portion of the sit-down, and Cruise had also issued an apology to him. At number 9, we have the formerly popular band 5 Seconds of Summer, who managed to alienate both their fans and the general public from a single Rolling Stone interview. In a December 2015 published piece, Michael Clifford was hungover from the performance the night before the interview, where he dished that they were surrounded by a load of phony people. He also detailed how they partied with Justin Bieber despite remarks that the Canadian singer allegedly hated them. Their drummer Aston Irwin further pushed that their female-dominated fanbase had them needing to prove that they were a quote real band and not just doing it for the girls. However, frontman Luke Hemmings counteracted this claim by over-explaining that the four young men were constantly placed in situations on their tour bus where they were surrounded by a lot of girls. He also suggested that the possibilities were quote endless when they were asked if they sleep with multiple people at once on the same night. It's safe to say we all know why we haven't heard much of them since. At number 8, we have the 2008 R. Kelly interview that flew his career further off the rails amidst his allegations of inappropriately messing around with aged girls. Journalist Tour sat down with R. Kelly where he outrightly asked during part of the interview if Kelly favored teenage girls. In response, Kelly questioned how old Tour was referencing, and a visibly taken aback Tour doubled down with clarification of what he meant. Kelly had to be sure though, so he asked if Tour was talking about 19-year-olds specifically, to which Tour responded confirming that he meant that and younger. R. Kelly then went on a spiel about how he has friends who were underage or freshly new to adulthood, but that he's allegedly never done anything to nor with them, and that the journalist shouldn't listen to people on his team who he previously fired. Tour later took to a Daily Beast interview to speak on his R. Kelly media run-in, where he admitted that upon BET's airing, R. Kelly's team demanded it be wiped off the face of the internet, but it was seemingly too late to stop the downward spiral that was R. Kelly's career. At number 7, we have the awkwardest Tom Hiddleston interview to exist, following his February 2000 GC dish, where he discussed his then split from singer Taylor Swift. In regards to this, Tom complimented his and Taylor's relationship immensely, speaking about how they were lovely together and their relationship was indeed real. Tom was even asked about his infamous I Heart TS tank, where he explained it stemmed from a friendly game which later became a joke between their friend group at the time. Tom was apparently extremely earnest during this interview, which reportedly landed him at his interviewer's hotel room door at 6 a.m. to clarify the points he made about Taylor during the interview, detailing that he was quote crushed by the end of their relationship. Since Tom's roles did in fact dry up, aside from his Loki reprisals, his 2019 Skull Island role, and his occasional voiceover work. At number 6, we have Jim Carrey and his famous wallflower and overwhelmingly dark interview style. There isn't just one to chalk this up to, rather plenty, but the greatest example is most likely his New York Fashion Week interview from the Harper Bazaar's Icons party. The multiple questions on icons at the event caused Jim to calmly spiral, and the reactions of the interviewer were nothing short of amusing. The awkward event in question harbored viral-worthy comments to proms, like Jim saying stuff like, "There's no meaning to any of this, so I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to, and here I am. This is just the absolute lowest aiming possibility that we could come up with. I don't believe in icons, I don't believe in personalities. I believe we're a field of energy dancing for itself, and I don't care." Much like other interviews in the past, such as Jim's Iowa University of Management 2014 meeting, he's made similar remarks which turned heads. Overall though, to the reporter's best effort, she could not save the interview from all the meme-worthy moments it soon took on. And despite his former success, we haven't really heard much of Jim nowadays, have we? At number 5, we have Jesse Eisenberg and his once socially awkward title being spun into that of a jerk in the wake of his Univision and Associated Press interviews. When he spoke with Associated Press, he detailed his Comic-Con experience to be difficult, even going so far as to label it as quote some kind of side. The highly insensitive remark obviously raised some horror, and when he attempted to clear his name, it fell on deaf ears. Moreover, his clarification came with the words, "I'm a normal person who has normal sensory experiences." So Comic-Con was very overwhelming for me. And let's just say people were not here for it. As for his Univision chit-chat, while promotions for Now You See Me were occurring, Jesse referred to the interviewer as the Carrot Top of interviewers, which many deemed as straight up rude. If you don't know, Carrot Top is a comedian who the interviewer labeled as quote horrible. So I'm sure you can see how that was insulting. Anyway, despite Jesse's need to prove his dislike for the process of interviews, he should probably rein in some points from his fellow industry buddy Kristen Stewart, who's expressed her own feelings of not enjoying public press appearances before finding her own path. At number 4, we have Paris Hilton's startling 2011 ABC interview, which showed proof of her still seemingly viewing herself as the top reality TV star worldwide, despite the media princess being overshadowed by her former assistant turned bestie Kim Kardashian. It's clear throughout the sit-down that Paris attempted to remain calm, but the grilling of the reporter, seemingly intent on discounting her worth, most likely set Paris off. When she was questioned on whether or not she believed her time as a reality star was donezo, Paris took that as her cue to exit stage left, leaving the set altogether. Some say she must not have been ready to accept what the world apparently already knows, that her chapter had officially reached its end long before her interview. Yikes. At number 3, we have the Australian newspaper interview with Denzel Washington, who seemed to make it apparent he didn't have extra time to deal with the press. His endless amount of sighs even caused him to go instantly viral. Reportedly, the interviewer flew miles and miles to do a press junket with Denzel, but at first it seemed he'd be a no-show. Thankfully, he did end up coming to the press junket, which is common in the industry to get quick dishes on celebrity to gain more buzz for them and the companies the interviewers are under. Understandably, this process is referred to as awkward and repetitive, and well, Denzel seemed to be no different. And while some actors are good sports, others like Julia Roberts and Tommy Lee Jones don't try nearly as hard. Apparently, Denzel joined this list shortly after. In the end, the interviewer's charm and persistence managed to get him engaged and somewhat more responsive than the daunting, cold exterior Denzel seemed to exude at first. Denzel even mentioned wanting to watch a suggested clip from the interviewer. But despite this, a year later, someone uploaded the interview to YouTube with the tagline of "arrogant rude interview" that's been watched millions of times. Unfortunately for Denzel, this just wasn't one of his best, but thankfully, the reporter still ended up having a great time overall. At number 2, we have Robert Pattinson's Twilight press frenzy, where it was obvious Robert was against any conversations regarding his then rumored relationship with his former co-star and ex-girlfriend Kristen Stewart. Naturally though, this became the burning red question in every media outlet, as everyone was clearly itching to ask Robert what their status was at the time. One of these people included Ryan Seacrest, who questioned him on his on-air show about what the ground of their relationship was. Robert was prompted to flee by his agent, and surprisingly, he did just that. In conclusion, Robert is no stranger to being around the center of awkward interviews, which clearly makes it harder for the general public to look at him in a more positive aspect. At number 1, we have the Kanye West comment that nearly ended this man's whole career, and that was his revealed thoughts on slavery. Warning, this may anger you. Anyway, Kanye served up quite the controversy and massive backlash in the media when he took to a TMZ live interview to make a statement that pissed off the whole world. The public outcry forced people to question his mental stability again, and the comment in question was that he genuinely believes slavery is a choice. His views on the oppressive system were ignited not even a week following his Make America Great Again stunt, where he professed his admiration for then US President Donald Trump. On the show, he outlined his decision behind wearing the infamous baseball cap, which had since become a trademark in Trump's MAGA political movement. The conversation took a left though when Kanye spoke on slavery, where he was accompanied by conservative commentator Candace Owens, who is outspoken in the details of the centuries-long African-American struggles of spending their lives shackled in servitude. His comment was of course met with stunned silence, which included the media outlet's founder Harvey. Kanye explained, quote, "You hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. You were there for 400 years and it was all of y'all? It's like we're meant to be in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. Prison is something that unites us as one race." One of the TMZ staff, Van, called West out to take responsibility for his words, where he ranted, "While you're living the life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives, with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. Frankly, I'm disappointed, appalled, and unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something that, to me, is not real." West issued an apology to Van before embracing him, and later wrote a statement on Twitter to further clarify his points. In it, the rapper detailed, "To make myself clear, of course I know that slaves did not get shackled and put on a boat by free will. My point is for us to have stayed in that position even though the numbers were on our side means that we were mentally enslaved. The reason why I brought up the 400 years point is because we can't be mentally imprisoned for another 400 years. We need free thought now." Even if the statement was an example, just an idea.
In at number 10, Princess Diana. The royal family is one of the most secretive organizations in the world, so everyone couldn't believe it when Princess Diana decided to expose all of her dirty secrets on TV in 1995 in an interview with BBC journalist Martin Bashir. The interview was after her divorce with Charles, when she was the most scared of the family. During the program, she revealed her struggles with disordered eating after Prince Charles made comments about her weight, along with talking about her postpartum depression and the affair she knew Charles was having with Camilla. Diana even talked about her own love affair with her writing instructor, James Hewitt. Even worse, it was exposed years later that the reason Diana gave such a detailed interview is because she was being blackmailed by the journalist Martin Bashir. Bashir acted in a quote deceitful way and faked documents to obtain the interview, an inquiry by the BBC discovered. And at number 9, Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore exposed herself, literally, during an interview with David Letterman. While doing the interview, Barrymore asked if she could dance for him. Letterman said yes, and all of a sudden Drew was on top of his desk dancing around, and then she suddenly flashed him. She had her back turned to the audience who didn't see, but it was quite a shock to Letterman. Apparently it was Letterman's birthday, and Barrymore said this was her present to him. This was during the time that Barrymore was having a rebellious streak, and she had just posed for Playboy and was feeling very open about her body. Barrymore revealed years later that the moment was not planned, and while they were talking she had a light bulb moment and wanted to dance. And at number 8, Jason Segel and Paul Rudd. During a promotional interview for the movie I Love You Man, Segel and Rudd admitted to being totally stoned. And if you watch the interview, it's honestly not that difficult to tell. In the beginning, the pair start talking about other movies with a bromance storyline, going back and forth naming the best ones. And funny enough, all the movies they named have the word stone in it. Coincidence? I think not. The pair then start talking about Segel's imaginary friend and can't stop laughing while thinking about it. The interview was hilarious, but I'm sure the studio was not happy with how unprofessional that it was. And at number 7, Paula Abdul. Paula Abdul had a great public reputation because of her role as a judge on American Idol. But that good reputation went down the pipes after this eyebrow-raising interview. In 2007, she was live on air with Fox to talk about the upcoming season of Idol, but it was derailed almost instantly. In the interview, Paula was nothing like the woman we saw on Idol, and honestly she seemed drunk. She was slurring her words, behaving erratically, and just acting like a basket case. Paula later denied she was drunk, and a spokesperson claimed that there was a sound issue during the segment. 2 years later, the singer failed to renew her contract with American Idol and basically disappeared into obscurity. And at number 6, Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl was blacklisted from Hollywood after she called out the director of the hit comedy Knocked Up. In a now infamous Vanity Fair interview from 2008, Katherine Heigl slammed director Judd Apatow and called the movie a little sexist. She went on to talk more trash about her character in the film, adding, quote, "It paints the women as shrews, as humorless and uptight. It paints the men as lovable, goofy, fun-loving guys." This incident, along with some other drama of the Grey's Anatomy production, put a huge axe in her career and forced her to apologize. Many years later, Heigl spoke to the Washington Post about being branded as difficult after the comments and blasted the idea that a different opinion made her difficult. She was blacklisted from the industry for a few years, but is back working again and has admitted to her past mistakes. Halfway number 5, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise's reputation has taken a dive for many reasons over the years, but one moment that really shocked fans was his interview with Matt Lauer. In the interview, his temper changes dramatically, showing the world that Cruise has a very short fuse. In the 2005 interview, Lauer asked Cruise about his comments criticizing Brooke Shields for taking antidepressants for her postpartum depression.
The thing that I'm saying about Brooke is that there's misinformation, okay? And she doesn't understand the history of psychiatry. She doesn't understand in the same way that you don't understand it, man.
Cruise kept going on that he doesn't agree with her decisions. When asked why, Cruise added, quote, "You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do," along with getting more combative as the conversation went on. That, in part with his sketchy divorce from Katie Holmes, made public opinion of him tank. And at number 4, Justin Bieber. An interview that Justin Bieber did with Mojo in the Morning was a complete disaster, for many reasons unfortunately. It started off on the wrong foot, when the interviewer said that Bieber's new music sounded like Justin Timberlake's. Later on, the interviewer asked, quote, "Do you worry about Harry Styles of One Direction around your mom since he likes older women?" Which is a really strange question to ask someone, like, who would even think of that?
Justin obviously thought it was very strange as well and clapped back, telling the reporter, quote, "I think you should worry about me around your mom, bro." Since it was just a phone interview, Justin did not waste any more time and just hung up the phone. And at number 3, Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino can be quite controversial, and a lot of his movies get some sort of backlash. After the release of his hit movie Django Unchained, Tarantino did the media rounds to promote the movie. One reporter asked about the real-life implications of violence that the movie portrays. Instead of giving a thoughtful answer, Tarantino was annoyed about the question and firmly defended the movie. He replied, quote, "It's just a movie, it's just a fantasy," brushing off the question. When the reporter continued to press, Tarantino just straight up refused to answer and replied, quote, "I'm shutting your butt down." A little immature if you ask me. And at number 2, Mark Wahlberg. Showing up drunk to a live TV interview is probably the worst thing a celebrity can do, because there's nothing worse than revealing all your secrets because you're under the influence. While Wahlberg was on the Graham Norton show, he actually admitted that he was pretty drunk, most likely from the drinks he was given backstage in the green room. Wahlberg asked Norton, quote, "Why would you allow people to drink alcohol and come on a show?" Wahlberg tried to keep it together, but after some time he started doing the craziest things. At one point he sat on Norton's lap while rubbing his chest seductively. Obviously viewers loved it, but it was very inappropriate. And finally, number 1, Kourtney Kardashian. This one is super strange, and I'm not sure why this even took place, but either way, it's probably the weirdest interview moment that I have ever seen. Back in 2016, Kourtney was being interviewed on the Australian talk show Today Extra. Kourtney answered some simple questions, then the reporters asked about how Kim was doing after her intense robbery situation. Kourtney then started to answer, but then it looked like someone on her team started talking to her because Kourtney totally ignored the question and looked off camera to someone else, then just said okay. The reporters then asked Kourtney the question again and made it seem like she might have just been breaking up or something. But then Kourtney just sits there blankly looking off screen while the interviewers try to think of something else to ask her. When the host asked if someone else is talking to her, she said, "Yes, sorry." Then I guess the interviewers just cut Kourtney's feed and got on with the program.
At number 10, we have the Joker interview. Now, I know this interview didn't take place in real life, but it was a late night show, so go with me on this one. For those who've never seen the movie, first of all, go watch it. Secondly, spoiler alert. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about the late night zinger at the end of the movie. The movie's protagonist Arthur is absolutely obsessed with the late night talk show, The Murray Franklin Show, so when he gets the opportunity to be on the show after making waves in a comedy club, he's thrilled. Maybe a little too thrilled. He then hatches a plan to do a stand-up act for Murray, and the punchline really makes your heart stop. Once he gets his shining moment on stage, he pulls his punchline and a gun? He shoots Murray and chaos ensues. Now that's what I call ruining a career, am I right? I'm not funny. And at number 9, Lilly Singh. Last year, YouTube sensation Lilly Singh debuted her new late night talk show, A Little Late with Lilly. But just 2 weeks after the premiere, Lilly was already facing backlash, forcing her to apologize for a joke that she made on the show. One of Lilly's first guests, Jessica Alba, shared images of her kids where Lilly decided to make a jab after seeing the children with towels on their head, saying, quote, "Don't worry, it's just like my Punjabi friends," end quote. This joke was in reference to the towels looking like turbans. When Lilly's fans expressed their concern with the joke, she stated that Alba's appearance was the first tape, so her nervous energy must have led to bad improv. This started a downward spiral as the show's ratings started to plummet, and not much traction has picked up since then. Coming in hot at 8, Courtney Love on Letterman. When singer-songwriter Courtney Love appeared on Letterman in 2004, her interview would be one for the ages. In her most unforgettable interview, Courtney Love famously pulled up her shirt and flashed the late night host. When asked years later why she did it, her response was that she was inspired when Drew Barrymore had done it on the same show. She said, quote, "Drew Barrymore had done it when she was 19, and I was so out of my mind when I did it, I thought I was 19, but I was actually 39. End quote. Love also gives reference to her Letterman days when she would pull all kinds of stunts for attention, mainly due to her drug abuse and mental health relapses. Watching clips of her Letterman days interviews honestly makes me so sad to see her in such a state. She has really grown since then after getting the help that she needs. Courtney voices her struggles with her past and how it damaged her image in the process. I just hope that she can stay in a good place. In at 7, Jim Cramer. CNBC host Jim Cramer appeared on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart in March 2009. He was set to appear on the talk show after days of continuous, highly publicized criticism of the CNBC network by John over Wall Street greed and the CNBC's role in glorifying it. This view came about shortly after the market crash of 2008 in the US. Stewart criticized Jim and CNBC because he claimed that instead of investigating the crash like they were obligated to as journalists, the network simply took any information given to them and blew up the story. Stewart found that to be a disservice to the people, especially after the economic collapse that affected so many others. Throughout the interview, Stewart proceeded to rip on Kramer, and honestly, I don't blame him. Investigative journalism is supposed to uncover the truth, but instead the network dropped the ball and led to no one blowing the whistle on the situation, resulting in the economic disaster. In an interview in 2011, Kramer revealed that the words exchanged during the interview still hurt him. This hurt his career as a reliable journalist, so I guess he's been served a slice of humble pie. Number 6. David Letterman and Joe Halderman. In 2009, on his late night talk show, David Letterman got real with his audience. He revealed to the public that he had been involved in affairs with some coworkers and that he had been a part of a $2 million blackmail scheme. A whole $2 million, people. Do you know how many chicky nugs you can buy with that? He told audiences that if he didn't pay up, his blackmailer would reveal his secrets to the public. But rather than get swallowed up in the scandal, he faced it head on. This subsequently led investigators to arrest former CBS News producer Joe Halderman for attempted extortion of David Letterman. Joe's reputation took a big hit after his arrest and incarceration, but at least now we know, don't mess with David Letterman. For number 5, we have Madonna on Letterman. Pop icon Madonna made waves during her 1994 interview with David Letterman. As she was introduced to the show, Letterman made some crass remarks at her and made some sexualized jokes about her. Madonna was not having it, no sir, no ma'am. Instead, she decided to retaliate against Letterman in the interview, where she proceeded to drop some landfill-worthy language, amounting to a grand total of 14 F-bombs. 14! The pop singer also made some crass remarks about Letterman towards the audience, saying things like, "I gave him a pair of my underpants and he won't smell them." Ew? On top of that, Madonna stayed on well after her time slot was supposed to end, resulting in producers having to bump the other guest slots. I guess that when Madonna gets petty, she gets petty. This controversial interview led to several FCC complaints and some harsh words by Entertainment Weekly being thrown her way, and the whole kerfuffle knocked her down a few pegs. Many people thought that Madonna's career was deader than dead after that stunt, but miraculously, she found her way out of the rubble and tried to forget about the ordeal moving forward. In at 4, Andy Dick on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Andy Dick and Ivanka Trump were guests on Jimmy Kimmel Live back in 2007. During the interview, Andy was being a bit of a and getting a little too friendly with Ivanka as he was seen creepily touching her body. It even got so bad to the point where Kimmel had to tell him to stop and even get up from his chair in an effort to stop him from touching her. All of this to no avail because he just wouldn't stop. Mr. Dick, fitting name, right? Was later escorted from the interview by members of security because he just wouldn't stop harassing Ivanka. Now, if you know anything about Andy Dick, then you know he's infamous for assault allegations and even jail time as a result. This interview was just one of the many instances of assault that follows him to this day. Needless to say, he's got a poor reputation. Coming in close at number 3, Joaquin Phoenix on Letterman. The Joker actor tried to play his own joke on the Letterman show back in 2009. Joaquin acted his way through the interview, trying to give off a dazed sort of image. During his time on the late night show, audiences watched as Phoenix acted loopy and out of it as he stumbled over his words and just straight up looked like he took too much NyQuil and tried to fight sleep, you know? Anyway, he just ended up looking straight cringy. Joaquin has since apologized to Letterman for his strange bit, but that interview dented his image a bit, and has stuck with him ever since. Almost at the end at number 2, Crispin Glover on Letterman. The Back to the Future actor became infamous for his little stunt on the Letterman late night show back in 1987. He was invited onto the show to promote his newest film, River's Edge, but upon appearing for his interview, things sort of went sideways. Dressed in a wig, hippie pants, and platform shoes, Glover babbled on, reading clips about himself from the newspaper, and rambling on nonsensically, and even getting aggressive almost to the point of him kicking Letterman in the face. No one knows for sure if the whole show was just a bit, or if he was high on more of that coveted no-no snow. But one thing's for certain, it was hella entertaining to watch. Coming to a close at number 1, Farrah Fawcett on Letterman. In 1997, Charlie's Angels star Farrah Fawcett took audience members on a wild ride during her interview on the Letterman show. The actress seemed really out of it during the whole interview. Throughout her time on the show, Fawcett was stumbling over her words, being incoherent at times, and even telling very lengthy stories that mostly didn't make much sense. To make things worse for the famed celebrity, she didn't even understand when Letterman was making jabs at her. It honestly didn't look like she was paying much attention to what was happening around her. Many people suspected that she was high during the interview, but one thing's for sure, her character was never the same after that.